I'd like to introduce a friend of mine, an extraordinary author, a former instructor, just all around lady. This is Miss Lynn Lewis, Dr. Lynn Lewis.
Well, thank you, Miss Perriman. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I am so happy you're here. And this book, we'll talk about that
Oh, yes.
momentarily.
Oh,
Let's
yes.
tell the audience a little about you because you grew up in the South, didn't you?
I did. I grew up in Monroe, Louisiana, with four sisters and four brothers, a large family.
Gee.
Hardworking mom and dad, but very inspirational, very spiritual. Grew up in the church. You had to go to Sunday school, 11 o'clock service, BTU, and night service. And by that time, you didn't want to party anyways. But it was a good upbringing, and we had a very close knit neighborhood. And I'm very thankful for that background and that upbringing because whatever that's just and right about me today is traceable back to that upbringing.
Usually that is what
Yes,
happens.
yes.
How far are you from Shreveport?
About 90 miles from Shreveport.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've been
yes.
there several times. I spoke at Southern
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
University.
Okay. In Baton
Yes,
Rouge.
yes, in Baton
Yeah,
Rouge.
yes.
What did I ask you about? Which place?
Shreveport. That's Shreveport
Shreveport.
is very close to Monroe, Louisiana.
Okay,
And
and
then Baton
Baton
Rouge
Rouge.
is close to New Orleans.
Yeah,
So Southern
I
University is kind of close to LSU.
right. It
Uh-huh.
is close
Right,
because you get
yes.
to airport, all they have is LSU
Right,
stuff. They
right.
forget about Southern.
Exactly,
What's
exactly.
that about? But anyway,
Money.
yeah. So, when did you come? Where'd you go to college, and when did you come
I
up here?
I earned my undergraduate degree from Grambling State University.
Really?
Yes, I'm a Gramblinite. I always tell people I'm here to testify that more than football players come out of
I
Grambling State
know, I know.
University.
I spoke there too.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
I loved it there.
And our motto at Grambling was, "This is the place where everybody is somebody." And I just love that motto even to this day, and I'll love it to the day I die.
And that's something you believe
Oh, yes.
personally,
Oh,
anyway.
no question about it, Brenda. And then I earned my master's degree from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville.
Uh-huh.
And they told me that shortly before I earned it, that I would be the first African American to earn a master's degree in sociology, the College of Liberal Arts at the University of Tennessee.
No kidding.
Yes, yes, that was in 1970, because you had very few African Americans who were allowed to attend the University of Tennessee. They would go to Texas Southern, or they would just go to other schools.
Tennessee State.
Yeah, Tennessee State, and so when you look at 1970, there were only 263 African Americans at the University of Tennessee, and there were extremely few African Americans in the graduate program. So
So where'd you get your
my
doctorate?
doctorate here in Detroit at Wayne State University in the College of Liberal Arts.
And
Yes.
then you taught at University of
Yep,
Detroit.
that's correct. After working on my PhD for a year, the University of Detroit hired me, and I was there from 1973 until 2007 when I retired as chair of the sociology department.
Now, let's talk a little bit about this book.
Okay.
Don't hate the player, learn
Learn
the
the
game.
game.
Now, first, what inspired you to write this?
My students, I would have live talk, Brenda, once a month. And my students would invariably ask questions about male female relationships, relationships in general, stuff about men and about women. And one of my students came and said, "You ought to do something with this.
Yeah.
We're constantly asking all these questions. You ought to put it in a book form." And I looked at comments from my private practice, and I looked at comments from my students, and I said, "I do have a book," and that's how it evolved.
Well, part of the title, ladies and gentlemen, is also how to spot eligible bachelors.
Right.
Now,
Yes.
tell us about this?
Oftentimes women think that simply because a man is single that he's eligible, but eligibility is a state of mind. So I'm trying to get women to understand, do not confuse singlehood with eligibility. They are two separate entities.
Right.
So I want women to get a feel of that and get an understanding of that, and then to understand the difference between the players who pride themselves on being players and the men who are truly committed and looking for marriage and a long lasting relationship.
You know, it's funny. Well, not funny. It's great that you preface a lot of the chapters with poems,
Yes,
and
yes,
the poem has to do something about
the players.
the player.
Right,
Now you
right.
have one, the King Smorgasbord player.
Yes.
I'll just read a little bit of it.
Okay.
I'm Mr. Delicious. I'm Mr. Delectable. I'm Mr. Yummy, 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 Yum. The women find me irresistible. They treat me like I'm their kingdom come.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes.
One other one that I love is
Okay.
the philophobic player. What is philophobic?
Philophobic is a psychological concept that defines persons who have a fear of falling in love and being in love, and they will mask that fear with being men will most the most chivalrous, the most genteel, and the most gentleman-like man on earth,
Smooth as silk.
smooth as silk.
And it says, I'm as smooth as silk, as suave as an aristocrat.
Yes.
When a woman walks past me, I tip my fedora hat. I put the G in genteel, the WB in well bred. I'm so polite and polished, ladies want to lock me up in their passionate lover's bed. Ooh,
Yes.
yes. I mean, but where did you get the knowledge of all of these different kinds of players?
Right. Well, I was in private practice
Yeah,
for years, and
right.
I always kept very good notes. And even now that I'm not in full blown private practice, I still take people. So I began to look over, and I saw a pattern of different type men. And of course, men who are at the university level, you find more of them players than non-players.
Why
Be-
is that?
well, first, their age, they're young, and second, they are not interested in committing at that young age, and third, the women allow them to be players. See, well, part of the issue of playerhood is that women have to take some responsibility for that because men are very much in tune with trying to satisfy women. So if they can't get away with certain things, they will change their behavior. But if they can get away with certain things and it's what they want to do, then their behavior will stay the same. So players are not just players in and of themselves.
Right.
Women have contributed to that type player behavior. So that's how the book evolved. And then I've always had persons I know to ask me questions about their relationship.
Yeah.
So I keep notes on that. So probably over 300 men's comments, either from being my students or being a client of mine in therapeutic setting or someone I know are, are in that book. Those all
Right.
of those
A
persons.
composite of different
Exactly.
people.
They
Yes.
yes.
If you have any questions about your love life, or if you're a player who thinks you're on the right track, give us a call. 868-0342, 868-0351, area code 313. Another thing that you have in this book, tell us about well, it's not a test, it's like an opinion.
Well, yeah, it's like a survey. One of the things I've noticed over the years when I've been in private practice, it's very difficult to get some people to agree to come to private practice. Part of that is because to come to therapy rather. Part of that is because there's been a negative stigma
The
attached to it.
stigma, I
Yeah,
was
that
going
people
to
think that
say.
people may see them as
Well,
crazy.
especially in our
In
community.
yes, in the African American community, it's quite prevalent. So I wanted people to begin to get into a self therapeutic mode. So I have surveys at the end of each chapter to determine if men fit that type player, and I have a survey for the women, and each
Women.
survey is a compilation of 20 questions. And then I have a rating scale and a scoring scale. So you can privately, not publicly, privately take your survey and rate yourself and score yourself and see if you fit that, or if you're dealing with a man, if you're a female who fits it. And for the mama's boy player, I have a third one for his mother to see if she produced
Right.
and nurtured a mother's boy.
Right. And that's a very unfortunate situation when you have the mother involved in
Very
it.
much so.
It's funny. On the mama's boy player, she has things like the basement brat.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Some other ones here. Same room, Sunny Boy. Tell
Yeah.
me about
Same
same.
room, Sonny boy. When his parents brought him home from the hospital after he was born, they had this little crib in the room. And then that same room, they took the crib out and they put the
Baby
little baby
bed.
bed in. And they took the baby bed and they put the twin bed. And they took the twin bed and put the double bed. And that same little baby who was brought home from the hospital is there at 57.
Oh,
He just has, rather than the crib, he now has his double bed.
double bed. He went to the twin bed, then the double bed.
Right.
Codependent companions. That's when mother knows worse.
That's right. When she is an enabler, she does too much for him. She cooks for him. She cleans for him. She takes messages for him. She even sides with him when she knows his behavior is inappropriate. And so
Yeah.
she becomes the codependent and the enabler.
Yes. I'm sure there's some people out there who've experienced that. The
Exactly.
lazy leech.
The lazy leech doesn't want to do anything but be lazy. He likes to lounge. He likes to be served. And he likes to receive. He always wants to be on the receiving end. He doesn't have any positive and productive goals. And part of that is because he hasn't had to have them.
And
Sometimes
women
when
kind of,
they cater to him and his mother caters to him.
and he has that
He
expectation.
has that expectation because he has a history of that expectation being met. And that's why he has the expectation. That expectation will remain as long as women, including his mother, will meet that expectation. It's just like the silent deceiver in the book. Men who are deceitful will continue to be deceitful until they are what we call in the public busted. And we will call it in more academic terms exposed and
Right.
revealed. But yes, they continue that same behavior.
Wow. You have the party parasite.
Yes, the party parasite is still amongst that mama's boy type, and he will use his mother's home to have parties and to just take over. And oftentimes she allows him to redecorate the basement, and she will actually, there's a case in there where the mother would actually leave her home and get a room at a hotel so that he could have full control of the home and do his own thing his way, and she will return on Monday after the weekend party was over. True stories in the book.
My goodness.
Yes, true.
My goodness.
True
Well,
stories.
see, this man has no reason to do better.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't. And this is why when you see a man who's not up to whatever your expectations are, you may want to look at his history. Because oftentimes, if people don't have to do, they may not do.
Right.
Some people just don't have a certain amount of self motivation that will cause them to do in spite of what others will do for them. So they have to be
Wow.
self motivated.
So, you have to school the mothers,
You
too.
have to school the mothers, yes.
Because mothers have this soft spot for their boys.
Yes, yes.
I have a son, but he moved out at 18
I'm
when he
sure,
went to
Brenda,
college. And I
knowing
mean,
you,
well, no, but
yeah,
you got to stand on
that's
your
what I'm
own two
saying.
feet.
Exactly. You would be the mother who
And
would
you
promote that.
raise them to be a good husband
Right.
for another woman.
Yes.
I mean, jeez. I mean, it's amazing.
It is.
It's
I've
amazing.
had a book signing and a presentation where I asked mothers, "Would did you raise a son who you would marry?" And the women were almost shaking. You know, they
Oh my
to
God.
try to, just digest that kind of question.
But sometimes, as a mom, you have to make the sacrifice to get that kid out there
Yes,
because if you don't, you will ruin him for any relationship.
exactly.
And there have been a lot of men ruined
That's right.
because, unfortunately, of their mothers.
Exactly. And she had good intentions, but she
But the
did
road
too
to
much
hell is paved with good
with good
intentions, too.
intentions. She did too much for him too long. We have to teach youngsters responsibility and to stand on their own 2 feet, as you've noted, and sometimes that's
Well,
not
what
being
about
taught.
the woman who doesn't allow or get that kid out to work or give him a thing? You better get a job. I don't care if it's at a car wash.
Well, she has made him dependent. Now, here's one interesting thing. Some women, now, I don't want to give the impression that only single women have these mama's boys, because there are married women with the husband still in the house with the mama's boy. And some of these women want him there because they can divert their attention away from the husband to the son. And whenever they feel that they are being mistreated by the husband, they can go and get the love for the son from the son. So they believe that they got it going both ways, that they have one foot in Sausalito and the other one in Lake Tahoe, because they are getting love from the husband and the
Right,
son.
right. Oh my goodness.
Yes, a
Goodness.
lot of dynamics.
Tell us about the smorgasbord player.
The
What is that?
the smorgasbord
Because
player.
I associate that with food,
That's what
all
I,
different
yeah.
kind of foods,
Well, you have the right association. The smorgasbord player is similar to when you go to a smorgasbord restaurant and you see all the food and you have everything that's imaginable, right? Well, the smorgasbord wants all kind of women. He doesn't care what size they are, how tall, how short. He doesn't care about their background, whether they're from the south, the east, the north, the west. He just wants them.
well,
Okay?
does he have any intention of ever getting settling down? You
No,
think?
he has no intention, because he's enjoying the same way people enjoy going to a smorgasbord restaurant who love to eat. He enjoys women like that. He
That's a
enjoys
shame.
the variety. So, and because he can do it and get away with it, and he has smorgasbord women, he has no reason to change.
Wow. So you have delectable Dan.
Yes. He thinks he is the cat's meow.
Delectable.
Delectable. He's delicious and he's delectable. He's irresistible.
What about Ernie the Entitled?
Ernie the Entitled thinks that God made him to have women do for him and wait on him and bow down at his feet. That's his main purpose for being born.
Do any of you know men like that? Greedy
Yes.
Greg.
Greedy Greg is very similar to Delectable Dan. But he's the kind of person, like the smorgasbord general topic is, that Greedy Greg is greedy. He may have, if he can, two or three women in one week.
Well, do you think that any of it, too, is desperation from women
I
to
think
have somebody in their life?
no question about it. For an example, of the gravy train player, the poem starts off, "I'm your desperado. I'm your gravy train man. You're my desperado woman."
Ooh.
And so these men view the women who will take virtually anything. As one woman told me, if he has a pulse rate, he'll do. Okay? And this was a well educated woman with a master's degree who was very gainfully employed, earning six figures, and that was her mentality. So sometimes we confuse educated women with not settling, but or with automatically having high self esteem, and that's not necessarily the case. There's not a direct correlation between the two. So it's what women will settle for that influences these players.
I have a saying, you get what you settle for.
Exactly.
And what can, and let's talk about the women now. What can They do. I mean, what can you tell them to let them know? Because a woman once told me, she said, I don't understand how you could go without somebody in your life. How could you do that?
Well,
I
first,
mean, it was like,
yeah,
at the time I wasn't dating anybody.
right. And what women have to understand is love first needs to come from within, not from outside of the person.
Absolutely.
So they need to focus on loving themselves. Once you understand the importance of loving yourself, you would then understand that you don't need to necessarily have somebody to feel whole and fulfilled, that you can fulfill yourself. Anytime someone thinks that they are a fraction of a person because they don't have a man or they don't have a woman, then that fraction will remain a fraction even when someone comes into their life, because you have to feel whole before the mate comes. The mate
Well,
is not there
I
to make
always
you
say,
whole.
well, I think I put this in my first book. At the beginning, I said, don't put the responsibility of your happiness in anyone else's hands
That's right, exactly.
because you're sure to be let down.
No question about it. No
And
question.
it's some people say, well, I got so and so, I got Joe, so
Right.
now I'm whole.
No, that doesn't, that will not work. It won't do
It
it.
won't work because eventually you'll be found out
That's right.
by yourself.
Right.
I mean, it is just amazing. But we tell women, make your life, you have a lot going on in your life.
Right.
Don't, love should come naturally.
It should, but it's very difficult for some people because some people have had so many unloved experiences that are dating back to their childhood. Some folk have had very difficult childhoods where they felt that they were not loved. And believe it or not, Brenda, they have transferred that not loved mentality to their relationship. So, unfortunately, for some women, the worse somebody treats them, the more they want them. I just recently had a case, a person I'm counseling in her early 20s, and she said, well, Dr. Lewis, what do you do if you know the person means you no good and he's no good as a person, but you still want him? And so I told the person from a spiritual point of view, you pray on it, seriously. I mean, seriously, from a psychological and therapeutic point of view, you are at the right place. We need to really work through this. But this person had low self esteem, had been rejected by her father, felt unloved by her mother. So it fits that scenario that she would be more attracted to somebody who would mistreat her and misuse her than someone who would treat her right, because she doesn't really understand the goodness and greatness of being treated right.
Yes, an uncomfortable situation becomes her comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually,
Exactly.
oh
Yeah,
man, I
that,
do believe that. That
yeah,
is, and that's some of the things that I've seen so many people get into these relationships that are bad,
that's
and
right.
they know they're bad, and
Yes.
but they choose to see what they think is good. They dismiss that.
That's right. I've had the lowest self esteem female I've ever counseled was one who attempted suicide 3 times. Her last time, she jumped from the overbridge onto large traffic in the in
Rush hour.
rush hour, and she did not lose consciousness. Her ribs were broken, both her legs were broken, both her arms. She did not lose consciousness. She told me she only wanted men who were drug addicts or ex-drug addicts or
Why?
alcoholics because she didn't think she deserved anyone better. Now that's the one with the lowest level of self-esteem.
Gosh, we have Eileen on the line. Good morning, Eileen.
Good
Good
morning.
morning to Brenda and Dr. Lewis.
Good morning.
Right. I have a real serious question here. I've noticed here lately all these heinous crimes against women. I mean, limbs chopped off, being hogtied, burned, all this stuff. And I wonder if Dr. Lewis has any answer in terms of the trend with this stuff, and also some red flags that we can tell our daughters and ourselves when we get in relations with these guys. What are the red flags to know that it's time to get the hell away from them, and also the specific way of getting away from them so that you don't get killed?
Very good questions. First of all, let's deal with the heinous crimes. That is when you find someone who has no conscience where they can chop off a person's limbs and they can kill them in that manner, then you know you're not dealing with a person who's just angry. You're dealing with a person who has some neurosis and some psychotic issues. And rather than say how can we get away from them, let's talk about how we don't have to deal with them from the beginning. When you find someone who you see the red flags, he tells you who he is. Every man in my book, with the exception of the last three, the silent deceiver, the philophobic, and the down low player, these men told the women who they were, and the women still wanted them. So what we have to do is recognize when someone tells you, Maya Angelou has a statement, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Believe them.
And I only have one qualifier for that, except when deceit is involved. And so those last three chapters take care of the deceitful person, because a very clever, masterful, deceitful person can fool anybody for a certain period of time. So one of the things we need to do, Eileen, is make sure that we teach our daughters not to gravitate toward these men. When they don't give you their telephone numbers, when they don't take you out, when they don't want to meet your parent, those are the red flags. When they call you out of your name, when they use derogatory terms to describe you, when they don't want to take you in public, when they only want to have what one of my chapters called a gas and go relationship, where they come there only to have sex and they leave. Those are the red flags that we should teach our youngsters to look for, and we should teach ourselves to look for, because believe it or not, you have some women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are in relationships with these kind of men, and yet they should know better, but apparently they don't do better.
Absolutely. That's all I can say. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Now, Dr.
I
Lou.
totally agree, Dr. Lewis, and I
Yes.
do believe that possibly in the school systems, if it could be incorporated into the hygiene courses at school, the sociology courses in college or whatever, to start letting these women know these red flags, because it's getting to be way too much of this, and it's just so sad.
It
Every
is.
time I turn on TV and I see this horrible stuff, horrific stuff going on, I'm going like, how come these women didn't know what was going on with them? Why were they not prompted to
Well,
know that this is going in the
Eileen,
wrong direction, so that she would
Eileen,
end up like that?
Eileen, I'm finishing up tweaking my teen dating violence prevention piece, which is a toolkit that will be going around to schools and everything, because I believe that you need to start young, like middle school, talking to these young people, and
Very
it
true.
incorporates drama in it. It incorporates all of the signs.
Sounds great.
It's a great program, and it was initially funded by Blue Cross Blue Shield. And my
Oh,
students and
wonderful.
I would go all over Detroit and all over dealing with it. So I decided to bring it back out.
Good for
And
And
you.
so
I
this,
think that is just absolutely timely, Brenda and Dr. Lewis, that you're bringing your book out like that, because our women are too valuable
Yes.
to
right.
be lost like this,
Exactly.
getting killed and burned up and dismembered like dogs and animals. I mean, we are the mothers of the earth, and we deserve better than that.
Better. I mean, just killing kids in front of their kids,
Yes.
killing
Right.
women in front of their kids, and so forth. Well, let's say, do you have Dr. Lewis's book yet?
No, but I certainly intend to get it. I
Well,
heard
that's
her
what we're
on Miss
getting
Gaddis
ready.
yesterday. I
Yeah,
was
because
impressed
I
with her
have to.
yesterday. She's making the rounds, and I love it.
Okay, I have to
Thank
close
you.
out this segment, but thank you so much,
Yeah.
Thank
Dr. Lewis.
you, and thank both of you.
Thank
You.
you.
Well, I'm gonna have her back because we have more to
Appreciate
explore.
it. I
We're
love
gonna
to.
do a whole relationship
I
show.
would love it.
Okay, well, let's do that. That's a
Yes.
promise. Let's do
All
that.
right. All right.
Um, where can we get the book?
The book is at most Barnes and Noble bookstores, and you can order it on Amazon.com. And it's
Absolutely.
only $15.95, so it won't break you.
Right, right, right. And it has $1 million worth of knowledge.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
It's excellent. Of course, it takes us sometimes years to learn these things,
Right.
but forewarned is forearmed,
That's
right?
right. Exactly.
So, oh, thank you, thank you.
Oh,
And
my pleasure.
we'll be back in just a few moments.